of which he would re-sign with, which he would like to be traded to, and he changed his answer. Let's listen to what he said over the weekend.
Somebody had told me that you had mentioned maybe the Celtics being on that list. I just wanted to clarify. Is are they on the list or are they not on the list?
All 29 of the teams are on my list.
Everyone's on the list.
I don't have a preferred destination. Like I said, I just want to win. You know, they ask me big market, small market. I don't care. You know, I want to win. You know, and obviously whatever team, you know, I get traded to, you know, play for it that year or whatever. If I get traded, I'm not sure, but just make the best of it, and then, you know, when free agency comes, see what happens. You know, I can't tell the future, but all 29 teams are on the list.
Okay, wait a second. Wait a second, Mr. Davis. Wait a second, Mr. Davis. Wait. He said it twice. All 29 teams are on the list? So basically, he's just saying, get me out of New Orleans? Do you really believe he gets traded to the Orlando Magic, he's going to re-sign with extension? Do you believe if he gets traded to the Atlanta Hawks, he's going to re-sign an extension? What is he doing now? What is his strategy there?
I think something went over your head that I want to point out. And he did this in both interviews. The one where he talked about it at the press conference and that interview right there. He did a distinction that keeps getting lost. He basically said, when I become a free agent after next season, I'm going to pick where I go. Mm-hmm. But right now, I clearly can't control where they trade me. So therefore, I'm open to go play wherever at this point because clearly this relationship has been severed.
Exactly.
So he's not saying he's going to sign wherever they trade him. He made that distinction both times.
Because he scored 3 points, and then he hurt his shoulder and left the arena. Like, things are bad between him and the Pelicans. So it's changed from, I want to go to the Lakers. Oh, you know what? I'll go to the Lakers or a couple of these other teams that don't have a package that you could potentially put together before the deadline that I would go to. So now the narrative is, you can trade me wherever, but I'm going to be a free agent.
And I'm all for second chances, and this did cost Dell Demps his job. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget why Danny Ferry was available. What happened with his situation with the Hawks.
Oh, we remember what happened with his situation
and the things he was saying about players like Luol Deng in particular.
And about the fans and other things.
Correct. And so for him to immediately, like, they let Dell Demps go, and then 5 minutes later, he rolls right into be interim, that gave me a little, hesitancy as it related to what their thinking is going forward as a franchise who continues to commingle with the Saints. Like, a team that's being run in an NFL basically has the same staff and leadership that's running their NBA team.
Same owner, same president of basketball operations is the GM.
Training staff.
It's a really interesting
mess.
situation. It's unique. And here's the thing, he is not going to play for the Pelicans next year, right? He's not. I don't think if it's not the Lakers or the Celtics, he's going to stay on the team that he gets traded to.
Correct.
Like, that's kind of how I look at it.
He's a rented player between now and his free agency. That's just how this goes.
Do you think the Pelicans will regret trading him at this deadline?
They won't regret not trading him. Here's why. Because the same Lakers offer can be made to them this summer. Mm-hmm. Also, it opens up the opportunity to game the Boston Celtics offer. And lastly, when you have a player like Anthony Davis, you don't want to rush. And when he came out and made his request about not wanting to play there, that was basically a 10-day window. It's tough to move around salaries and players and consume a deal unless it's just a knockout. And you're clearly not going to get a knockout your first time around.
No.
For the offers.
How many minutes did he play in the All-Star game?
He played like 5 minutes.
5 minutes in the All-Star game. What do you think the strategy was there?
Well, here's the strategy. I only could play 5 minutes because I'm honored to be here, but I ain't going back to New Orleans and play quality minutes for them. My shoulder still bothers me.
My shoulder hurts. Do you think that shoulder's going to get worse over the next few days?
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
It might be re-aggravated.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
Maybe something happens at home where it gets re-aggravated.
But also to be
second opinion.
Well, to be 100, that's best for both sides.
Of course.
Like, if you're the Pelicans, making the playoffs isn't something that you should want to do at this point. So you want to get closer to the lottery. If you're Anthony Davis, you want to maintain your health, because now if you get injured, that now creates a whole different set of problems. So for me, it's best for both sides, other than the integrity of the game part of this, that he doesn't play anymore.
Remember the Pelicans in the playoffs? They were playing so well. Like, it just, I mean, what was it, 10 months ago? 9 months ago?
It was all good.
It was all good 9 months ago. They were sweeping teams, winning games, and now all of a sudden, like, it's not in our best interest to win games. We don't even want Anthony Davis in the game.
But the unfortunate thing about this is when you see Paul George return to Indiana or LeBron James when he returned to Cleveland, how the fans responded to them was really negative. Whatever happens when Anthony Davis returns, this is going to rival that. Because now he's still a member of their team, in theory not helping them win, doesn't want to play, doesn't control his destiny, but yet he's still on their roster. And so this is going to foster a negative atmosphere for him about in town when he's out and about just his normal day. And now he's going to create a situation where this fan base is always going to be.
What else? The 30-point streak that he is on. Let's listen to James.
The scoring streak is obviously amazing, but it's just something that I had to do because of our situation, and we had all the injuries and guys in and out of lineups and things like that. So I think the streak just started happening, and then now it's like something to talk about, but it's not something that I'm really honestly focused on. Like, that's something that I have to do in order to give us a chance to win the game.
Interesting. There's a few things I want to discuss about that. First of all, is scoring 30 points a game something that James Harden has to do?
Yes.
Is it something that he's not focused on?
He's focused on it.
Because there's been a couple 31-point games, 30-point games, and I've learned from talking to you that players know where their numbers are at the end of a game.
Absolutely.
If you look at Russ's triple-doubles, I mean, he's doing something amazing, but there's a lot of, like, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, do you think, he says he's not focused on it, but do you think he does what he has to get over that 30-point mark?
So this is a necessary evil for the Houston Rockets because the Western Conference is so stout. When Capella goes down, when CP3 goes down, when Eric Gordon's in and out of the lineup, the constant has been James Harden. And they're going to need him to score buckets in order to maintain in that stout Western Conference playoff race. So a regular season style and a postseason style, we all know are different. I hate that he has to apologize for being a prolific scorer, but here's the dynamic I want to share. There were times in Michael Jordan's career, Kobe Bryant's career, where people felt like they shot too much or accused them of being ball hogs.
Of course.
Same with Carmelo Anthony.
All great scorers.
All great scorers get accused of this. So now for James, a guy that's helped lead the Rockets to one of the better teams in the West before Chris Paul arrived. He's the reigning MVP. He understands that he can't be taking 40 shots a game and scoring 300 points that are unassisted, and they're going to advance in the playoffs. This Rocket team last year, in my opinion, would have eliminated the Golden State Warriors had Chris Paul not gotten injured. I know Trevor Ariza was out on the other side. I get it. I mean, I'm sorry, Andre Iguodala was out on the other side. I get it. But I still believe up the way they were up, and they missed 27 straight three-point shots.
That was their shot.
That's unprecedented.
They should have won that series the same way the Thunder should have won the series against the Warriors the year before.
Correct, but props to the Warriors. They found a way to close the deal and get it done.
At the end of the day, they win the
for
game.
James, just look at it like this. The regular season is just that. The postseason is a different style where you can't ISO ball freely very often because defenses can go boxes and elbows, force you to be perimeter oriented, and every time you miss, they're going to get the rebound because they're on the inside. He understands that that can't carry to the playoffs, but right now he needs to do what he needs to do in order to validate playoff position.
So Chris Paul is back. Clint Capella is working his way back. Do you expect him to continue this streak even with those players in the lineup?
No. I think the streak has now become a burden to him.
See, I'm glad you said that. And you said something else that was really smart. It almost is like he's apologizing. He never said, I'm sorry for going on this streak, but it's almost like he has to defend himself against the streak. Like people aren't saying, James, what an amazing streak you're on. What you're doing is unlike anything we've seen since Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. Let's bow down to you and celebrate you. There's always like, yeah, you went on this streak, but it's like a yeah, but kind of thing with this streak.
And also, the other thing that's unfair to James Harden is you got to remember why I call him the most unique offensive weapon that the game has seen. Because he's the only guy at some point of his career that's going to lead the league in threes made, free throws made, total points, and the last one is really important. Total assists. He's amongst the league leaders when they're operating at an optimum level. He'll give up the ball, okay? So for him to be a guy that when they're traditionally operating at a normal capacity, he's top 2 or 3 in the game in assists. So he'll pass the ball.
And Rachel asked some interesting questions to him, too, about his energy level and his fatigue. And whether or not this can happen, and how in playoff series, game 1, game 2 is when he really is at his best, and then he sort of tails off at the end of playoff series. Don't you feel like, and I hate to use this term, load management is important for James Harden, especially at this point in the season?
It's something that Mike D'Antoni doesn't necessarily use with his best players. You can go back to the Phoenix days. You can look at anywhere he coaches. He's going to play around 7.5 guys. The reason why I say half, for those that don't know basketball terminology, that means one guy that probably plays around 12 minutes. So getting close to 8 players per game. And he's going to use those guys regular season.
But that's a playoff-style rotation in the regular season.
Correct. Yeah. And so for a guy like James Harden, you know what you never get tired of doing? Playing offense. Nobody ever gets tired of playing offense. Now, you start getting some defensive stances, you start taking some charges, all of a sudden you're tired. Right?
Yeah.
So I think he can manage what he's doing offensively. Do a lot of gambling, get a lot of steals defensively, but preserve himself. But I think Mike D'Antoni and James Harden, the last handful of games of the year, hopefully they can validate some playoff positioning where they can idle him down some and get him ready for a long playoff run.